Hello my lovely, thanks for coming in to join me today in my kitchen. I've got my apron on, my cookbook's ready and my oven is preheated. So what are we making today? Well, it's my favourite recipe in the whole world as far as baking is concerned. I love a good scone. What about you? Do you like a scone? And what sort of scone do you love? I'd love you to put that in the comments. Do you love scones? And what is your favourite type of scone to have? Well, today I'm doing a basic one because I think from there you can create many different types. So what we're doing is we're going into book 4 and there's some scones in this recipe as well, not just this one. And we're going here to my Symple Light Scones. And I'll tell you about all the others. There's about 10 I've got with variations as well. Because with this one, for example, you've got 3 different nutritional breakdowns there for the plain, ginger and sultana. So that way you can work it out. All right, so let's get baking because I've preheated my oven to 220 degrees. Now, I'm going to give you some tips on how to make the best fluffy light scones ever. So if you've struggled in the past, you are going to become the scone king or queen because I've got some things I do that are different to traditional scones because, you know, there's nothing traditional about me. I'm going to change things around and make them healthier if I can. And so with scones, the key is a hot oven. 220 degrees, it has to be preheated. So when that light goes off, you're ready to put them in. Do not compromise on that heat. 220 is the way to go. Fast and quick, we want our scones cooked. Now the ingredients you need, and this is why I think I love them so much, is if you get surprise visitors, you can quickly make up a batch of scones because all you need is 2 egg whites. So 2 eggs. I've got 30 grams or 2 tablespoons of Floralite margarine, 2 teaspoons of white sugar, 2 cups of self-raising flour, and half a cup of milk. I've also got flour out for the rolling of it, as well as brushing it with some milk and cooking spray. So you can see, I'm sure you've got all this already in your pantry. So why don't you put your oven on now at 220 so you can bake after the show. All right, so what I'm going to start with first is I'm going to melt the margarine. So remember, it's 30 grams or 2 tablespoons. Always, when you're melting things like margarine, it's really good to put them in a glass container. I put the cling wrap on because I don't want it to splatter everywhere. And then as well, I drop it down to 20 minutes, done. All right, so let's now do the dry mix. So we sift 2 cups of self-raising flour into a bowl with 2 teaspoons of sugar. All right. Now I've actually used spelt flour a lot because I like spelt, but you could do gluten-free flour as well. It just changes things a little bit, of course, but if you can't have flour, then that's your alternate. All right. Now we've got the sugar in there and the flour. Let's get the margarine. There we go. Just remove that cling wrap. And I'm just going to crack, actually what I'll do is I'll put the milk in first because that will cool down the margarine. I always put the milk in this way instead of the margarine that way because where you get all the margarine properly. We want 2 egg whites. So this is one way that I've really been able to reduce the fat in scones by not using the yolk and by using the low-fat margarine. Of course, the problem with a lot of scones is that it's what you put on top of them that could be your undoing. So if you're like smothering it with thick jam and then a big blob of full cream, the poor scone doesn't stand a chance because they have, this recipe here is only 1.5 grams of fat. So it's fantastic. Give it a good mix like I'm using my little whisk. So it's all in here because I don't want to be washing up too much either, people. So try and do as much as you can that's in the same containers. That's looking great. All right, so let's move this here. And now what we do is we put the wet in with the dry. So it's a very simple recipe at the end of the day. But by putting in the egg, I think it really does help lighten the scone. And now we're just going to combine the wet with the dry. And this is when you would also add in, if you were going to do sultanas or currants or any dates, would be what you do. Now, with this recipe, you do have to get your hands dirty, I reckon. So I'm going to put my gloves on so that I don't get it under my nails or in my jewellery. I think it's just worth doing if you're like me and hate all that goo under your nails, and I think it's hygienic as well. All right, so we've done as much as we can now with the wooden spoon, and I'm going to get in now and really lift up that dough so I can get all that flour that's sitting in the bottom of the bowl. There you are. You don't want it to be really super wet, and you don't need to knead it. Like, this is enough action that it's had right now. You know, people get there and they, really need it. It's not like bread or anything like that. It's delicate, okay? We don't want to mess it up. All right, so now we're going to just get some extra flour. Put that down. And let's roll it out. Now, this is, forget your rolling pin as well. Let me put this over here. In my soapy sink, you do not need to roll this out. You just need to pat it out. I want to get 12. Now, this is probably the hardest part of making scones, is getting the right amount to equal 12. So I'm going to hopefully get it right. That looks about perfect. All right, so now you get your scone mix and dip your scone cutter. It's about 6 centimetres, and if you don't have a scone cutter, find a glass that is about that size. And once again, dip it in the flour as you go. I've got my tray, flat baking tray. Ooh. Give it a spray so they don't stick. Just remember, the key is the 220 oven, right? Now, if you're writing this down, so this is how I'm giving you tips. Number 1, preheated oven 220 degrees. Next is using Flora-Light margarine and only egg whites. So you're cutting the fat count down considerably. Now, the other tip was don't knead it. Just mix it together till it's ready and then pat it out. Don't roll it. All right, so you're taking notes. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger because it is a bit high. There we go. And go right to the edge if you can, trying not to twist it too much because that will toughen the edge. And then after about 3, go back in, cut another couple. And as I said, keep going back into the flour. Oh, isn't this fun? You should get the kids. I love doing this with my grandkids. Haven't we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I want to see if I can get 2 out of the middle. No, not going to happen. That's all right. So because you redo them. Now, next tip. See what I'm doing here? I'm putting my scones down. They're kissing. I know, it's very romantic. You want them to touch. I like calling it kissing because they'll bake more evenly. You don't want them separated. Now we've got 2, 4, 6, 8. We need 2, 4, 6, 8. We need 4 more. So just squeeze it together a bit so it combines. And let's see how we go. If we don't get 12 out, I'm not going to worry too much about it. It is what it is. That's called home cooking. 1, 2. No, I've got 2 more to go. Will we do it? Oh, yes, we will. There's that one. And now what I do with this bit, Now, I remember my daughter watching me make them over the holidays when she was here for Easter, and she didn't know to do this. But see how I've got this bit left? You could sort of fat it around. No, what I do is I stick it in to the cutter. Hello? It may not be the perfect one, but we got 12. Yay! I'm so happy over the smallest things these days. Yeah. All right, so now all you have to do is brush the top with a little bit of skim milk. So you can use an old, like a paintbrush, not an old one, a fresh new one, or this is a pastry brush. And it just, what it does, it just gives the top a bit of a, like a crust, if you know what I mean. Makes it help brown. Now, if you are loving scones, like I do, let me tell you about the scones I have for you in my cookbooks. So in book 3, I've got fruit scone scrolls. I got the idea in New Zealand. I'd never seen it before. Go Kiwis. And then I also did a savoury scone scroll. Now, in this book, in book 4, I've done the plain. This is the plain one. And the variation there is you can have ginger, you can have sultana. I've also done another couple of scone recipes in book 4, and that's the cheese and onion scone. Oh my gosh, fabulous. As well as orange and date scones, which are magnificent. Book 6, you've got banana scones. And I've also done the banana scones in the cooking for 1 or 2. So instead of making 12, you actually make 4. How good is that? So if you don't want to have these in the freezer, or you're tempted to go and eat all the scones, then that's a really good recipe for you as well. But in that book as well, the cooking for 1 or 2, I did a new recipe, which is the sweet potato and sultana scones. And I loved my scone mix that much that with this recipe, I took out the sugar, cut the recipe in half, and I put it on top as a topping for my homestead chicken pie with a scone top to it. I know, fabulous. Living the dream with the scones. So now, into the oven. Remember, it's a hot oven. I'm going to do 12 because I need to check it, because if they are looking cooked, take them out. All right, so I'm going to clean this up and we're going to come back with the finished product. I'll see you soon. Okay, so we're nearly ready to show off our scones, but what I've got ready for the scones now is my tea towel. I'll tell you about that in a minute, why I'm doing it that way. Oh, look at that. Oh, let me turn the oven off. All right, there's my scone. Look how fluffy and fabulous they look. I know, I mean, this one's a bit rusty, but we don't care because it's home cooking, isn't it? Look at that, fabulous. Who wouldn't want that for morning or afternoon tea? Now, you can see they're all together, which is what I love. And I'm going to put them in here in this basket with a tea towel. Now, I tend to not even really break them up if I can help it too much, because I want to keep them together. And why you do it in a tea towel like this is it will keep them more moist as well as keep the heat in, which is what I want, because say for example, I've just put the kettle on, I want them to stay warm. You could put them on a rack if you want, but then they will get cold quite quickly and can also get a little bit harder than putting them in here, because the steam will keep them soft and moist. So there are my little babies, my little dozen scones. I mean, I love them so much. Now, if you would like to win book 4, then all you have to do is like, share, and then in the comments, you know what you got to do. It's hashtag simply too good. Write that into a comment in the comments, and I'll pick 3 fantastic winners, and you'll be notified by an email by me, and I post the winners up on Thursday next week so everyone knows. But if I really want to hear though, what are the scones that you love the most? I mean, have I not done a scone recipe that you love? I mean, there's always time to get new scone recipes in my head. So, I mean, look, here we go. Who knew weight loss could be so deliciously healthy? A Sconelicious. Oh my gosh, fluffs of fabulousness. And so next week, I'm going to do another good old classic. Let me cover them over. I want to keep it warm. Diane's very excited. The classic I'm going to do next week is another way I've converted something that's very high in fat to a really healthy version. What could it be? Well, it's in book 2 and also in Cooking for 102. So you've got a chance to win either of those books next week, and it's my potato bake. Yes, just saying it makes me excited. If you love potato bake, you need to be here next week. All right, well, we are going to put the kettle on and enjoy our beautiful scones. So you take care. Oh, listen, did I tell you about my Scone Buffet? I didn't, did I? Okay, so when I'm making a Scone Buffet, I'll make the plain scones. I'll make the ginger scones, because Billy loves his ginger. I'll do the orange and date scone and the cheese and onion scones. But what I tend to do, because everyone wants to try them all, I use a smaller scone cutter so that it's a little about this big. That way everyone can have more, and you just get lots and lots of scones. Put it all out with the Flora Light, maybe the Dairy Whip light cream. That's what I use. Your different jams. I mean, dare I say on a plain scone, my son-in-law Brent puts Vegemite. And my daughter puts peanut butter. I know. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. I'll see you next week back here with the apron on. See you soon. Bye now.